we're glad that the jury were able to officially confirm for us what we had always believed, that my brother was in fact killed, that he didn't take his life, and that he wasn't suicidal, and those were false accusations put against him by the Syrians.
Because he was due to be released in a matter of days, wasn't he?
That's right, so it was about 5 days he was due to be released. He was well aware. My mother was having regular phone calls with him, she was having regular visits with him, he was writing to his wife, his children, and we even managed to get a phone call between them.
Can we remind our viewers, would you remind our viewers of why he was there and how he ended up in prison?
So my brother was an orthopaedic surgeon, and he decided to go out to Turkey and help at the refugee camps at first with charities such as IHH and Human Aid along the border. It was at a time that Syria was unfortunately having a lot of heavy bombing. Hospitals were being targeted, so you had civilians who weren't able to come up to the refugee camps, and many doctors were fleeing across the border. Border's quite porous, barely anyone goes in without a visa. Any aid convoys going in, they all going in without visas. And so he decided to respond to that call and go in, and he took in about £20,000 worth of aid with him. And in a short space of time, he was there for just 48 hours. He performed almost 20 operations. He was moving from hospital to hospital, doing as much as he could to help the people in the amount of time he had.
Your brother was killed in a Syrian prison, so a very secure place and a very difficult place to investigate. How do you go about finding out who was responsible for his death?
Well, it is very difficult because the Syrians aren't willing to cooperate with us. The coroner had written to them. They decided not to cooperate. They decided not to speak with us. The family, we've tried to personally contact them. So we're now hoping to go to the International Crimes Court and hoping to have the Syrian regime that way, saying that this has gone through an official procedure. My brother did not commit suicide, and to have some names brought before us, because that, as a family, is what we'd like.
How does that work? What happens next? Like, there are practical steps you have to take to go to the ICC, aren't there?
That's right. So I think the fact that we've gone through the inquest is a big help. We've got this, and this is one of the only cases that's actually been able to go through this. We've had various firms contact us, people who are already keen on taking on the case, so we're hoping they'll be able to help us.
And have you been given an idea of how long this could take? Because already you've spent so much time trying to make clear what happened to your brother.
Unfortunately, we haven't, but as a family, whether it's next year, in 10 years' time, we will continue to push until we do get some answers.
Just remind us a bit about what your brother was like.
He was a very selfless man. He was noble, very kind-hearted, and he was a dedicated father and husband. He spent as much time as he could with his children, with his wife, and I think those months that he had to spend without his wife and children were probably horrendous.
Do you have any idea as to why the Syrian authorities or somebody in that prison would want to kill him when he was just on the verge of being released?
Well, during the inquest we heard from a prisoner who was in fact within the same prison as Abbas and in the same cell as him, and he felt quite strongly that they wouldn't have wanted Abbas to come home because he had too much to tell. He had experiences, first-hand witness of things happening to Syrian prisoners, the things that happened to him, and he was going to come out and tell the world what had happened, and he kept saying that to the people around him as well, and he felt that that was something that they weren't willing to risk.
Sarah, you mentioned that he was a dedicated father, and much of what you've done as a family is to make sure that his children know what their father was like.
That's absolutely right. We hope that they're going to grow up and appreciate that their father was a very noble man. He was a righteous man, and it was very selfless what he did.